Divers! Based on how inconsistent the CQC-9 Defoliation Tool can be at times, the thing might be effective. But something tells me that's not really the case. If you've been using it, you know what I mean. Some swings obliterate a Devastator, other swings leave a voteless without arms, but otherwise still staring at you menacingly. But why? I decided to use the power of science and limited resources to figure things out. And by the end of this, I hope I paint a clear enough picture so you'll understand this weapon better too. I'll say it up front, this isn't a buff my shiny new weapon video. This is a video attempting to figure out how the Chainsword actually works by identifying and investigating 3 potential mechanical issues that I found. Maybe you could call them unsurety points rather than issues, but unsurety points sounds like something you'd hear on a trader's illegal broadcast, and I don't like the sound of that. I've been using the thing zealously since the Python Commando's Warbond dropped, and it has, without a doubt, become my new favorite weapon. That is, regardless of the fact that the thing doesn't seem to act the same way on more than half of its swings. We all know that High Command sometimes has its issues with equipment being too powerful, or conversely weak enough to be a meme. Neither of those are the Defoliator's problem. Damage? Check. Vibes? Check. New playstyle? Check. Brings balance risk to reward? Check. Fun to use? Double check. Originally, I'd been working on a broadcast to show you lot just how much I love using this thing. When this happened, the flesh mob eventually died, but that wasn't the point. I couldn't figure out why the chainsaw wouldn't stick, considering that this is the enemy that would be the most satisfying to chainsaw into. My disappointment was immeasurable, and my day was ruined. You might think the chainsaw doesn't stick unless the target is armored, but then there's this. For now, let's just ignore that lump of non-patriotic flesh and get right into the science. To start, there seems to be regular inconsistencies in how much damage the weapon does with each swing. What do you mean by that, Private Spruckus? I'm glad you asked. Here are some various examples of attacks exhibiting said behavior against voteless. Killing 1 in one swing. Killing 3 in one swing. Not killing any in one swing. Swinging into one and getting stuck on him. Swinging into a horde and cleaving through several. Swinging into a horde and not doing any damage at all. We'll circle back to this one later. I tested this on enemies other than voteless, of course. So here are just a few other examples using Overseers, which have 600 health for the record. Killing 1 in one swing. 3 swings to kill 1. The swing slowing to a grind into the Overseer to kill it. The Defoliator does 300 standard damage and 150 versus durable per swing. But let's focus on the standard damage for now. Peak Physique or Rocksteady should, emphasis on should, and we'll get to proving that, increase the damage to 600 per swing. Considering that even the most twisted, mutated voteless only has a 160 health, 600 damage should be a no-brainer in taking one down. So what's the deal here? Before I made any assumptions, I wanted to make sure that the 100% melee damage increase was actually being applied. To test this, I decided to use a specific type of socialist bot as my test dummy. A Scout Strider's legs have 400 health and are lightly armored. Considering how easy of a target the legs are, I should have no issues hitting them. Should be able to take it down in one swing, but only if I have Peak Physique or Rocksteady armor equipped. So, I jumped into some difficulty 4 missions and found some Scout Striders to dispense democracy to. Without the armor passive, I was unable to take a Strider's legs out with a single swing, even once. But with it, I was able to do so relatively consistently. This means that the damage buff is definitely applied. But the problem of inconsistent damage was further evidenced by some Striders still taking multiple hits to destroy. At this point, I had 2 working theories. Theory 1 is that the chainsaw has multiple hitboxes down its blade instead of a single one. These hurt points are only active once per swing, and once they hit a target, they're not active again until the next swing. This would explain why it took 3 swings to kill the Voteless here. Its arms took the hit for the first 2 swings, deactivating the chainsaw's positional hitboxes, and the 3rd swing took it down now that there wasn't anything in the way. Tells me that in that situation, it didn't matter that the swing made contact with the body at all after hitting the first arm. It would also explain why some of the Scout Striders took several hits to dispose. Not enough of the hit zones were making contact in a single swing. Theory 2 being that the weapon can only hit a target once with each swing, regardless of where it hits. If this is the case, it would explain an arm getting taken off and not killing the Voteless, while still hitting the next enemy down the line. This second theory, however, does not explain the Scout Strider issue, as I noticed some swings were hitting the waist and legs, implying that a target can be hit multiple times in different areas by the same swing. After cooking on this, my final theory became a mix of both ideas. There are multiple damage zones on a chainsword that are always active during a standard swing, but can only hit an individual target once per swing. The more damage zones make contact, the more damage the swing does. I've got an example to make this crystal clear, but let me lay out some facts first, some of which we've already covered. The Defoliation Tool does 300 normal damage per swing, doubled to 600 while wearing either Big Physique or Rock Solid armors. The beefiest Voteless has a health of 160. A Voteless's shoulder, as that's where the soul made contact, only has a health of 50, and of that 50 damage taken, only 40%, or 20 damage, will bleed through to the main health. TLDR? Taking off both arms or shoulders will leave the thing with plenty of health to run around and flail undemocratically. Making an assumption based off my theory, when the chainsword is swung, damage is divided over however many hit zones, but let's say 10 here for the sake of simplicity. Then, based on this assumption, it would mean that the chainsword's hit zones deal 60 damage each. Example time. If only one of the hit zones was able to make contact with Voteless A during a swing, it would be enough to remove an arm or shoulder. But now that specific hit zone will not hit Voteless A again. Given assumed health values, and taking hitting the arm into consideration, I would have had to be close enough for at least 3 more hit zones to have made contact in order to take it down on the first swing. Then, on my second swing, I hit its other arm first, and still wasn't any closer. Only 1 hit zone made contact again, taking off the other arm, but leaving the thing standing. Of course, following the theory, those hit zones would still be able to hit Voteless B or C if they were present, hence hitting multiple targets not being an issue. This means that to use this weapon's full potential, you need to position yourself and time your swing so that the entire blade hits your target where you want to hit it. The hitboxes follow the blade, not where you're aiming, meaning that you can control and lengthen your swings by turning your aim in and out of them. Think of games like Dark Tide or Vermintide if you played those on your Stratagem Hero console. In short, don't swing wildly and don't use just the tip. You've got to make sure your blade is deep in there. That's when the magic happens. And also to stun for things like hawks. Remember when I said we circle back to swings not doing any damage at all? Well, here we are. Do you ever find yourself mowing into a horde of, well, whatever, handling the situation just fine, when all of a sudden you take a tiny, insignificant hit from the side? Now you can't seem to kill anything, and then democracy decides that you're not worth protecting. Well, that's our next potential issue, which is repeatable enough for me to feel right and stating it to be a fact. If you're hit mid-swing when swinging a chainsword, it just kind of stops working. To be clear, the swing itself continues. But hitboxes get turned off? Look, I'm not really sure the mechanics behind the curtain on this, but it happens. Consistently. This might be the same for other melee weapons, but with how fast they attack, the issue goes mostly unnoticed. At least on other weapons, I would understand. Your swing is being interrupted and can't carry the force to make a strong impact. But if I'm using a defoliation tool, a weapon that's powered mechanically instead of with my own strength, and I'm already mid-swing, I would expect there to be some damage output, regardless of something slapping me with its gross mutated hand. Not sure if the Ministry designed it this way, or if it's one of those bugs the Automatons keep releasing into our manufacturing system. But whatever the reason, it's a consistent happening. Prioritize yourself not getting hit in order to avoid this shortcoming. No amount of armor, stagger resist, or ragdoll resist seems to make any difference. My 2 cents is that maybe High Command does make a slight modification, making ragdoll resistance provide melee attack interruption as well. It'd certainly make the armors in the Warbond the rock-solid choice to equip. Wink, wink. Now we're at the last issue. Why would the weapon show into a Wall Strider, but not a Flesh Mob? I believe the swing slowing down is based on the armor class of the target, not its size, total health, or anything else like that. And the chainsaw isn't doing its full damage. Because the armor class is higher than its current penetration value, it shifts to the grind mode and slows down, increasing damage and penetration over time. And since flesh mobs are unarmored, the defoliator doesn't need to switch into high gear, causing you to not slow down your swing, hence only regularly attacking flesh mobs or grinding targets with heavier armor values. This idea doesn't explain some of the times where a swing slows against some unarmored or lightly armored units, such as a berserker, but it's a step in a direction. For the most part, when it works, the weapon feels fantastic against a large majority of our enemies. You're really chewing through your targets. The exception to this being the quintessential zombie abomination. Unless, of course, your idea of a good time with it is tickling its backside for a longer time than your C-01 permit allows. I'm not saying that the defoliator should be a solution to everything, but out of all problems for it not to be able to solve, the flesh mob feels like the wrong choice. It is literally the most rippable and terrible enemy we have, and I'd like the opportunity to rip and tear it. There's no adaptation or learning for this point, but I do have a proposed solution. Regular swings continue to do what they do currently, but when you ADS, or aim down saw for those who don't know, you hold the weapon out and rev it into whatever's in front of you. This would simply give more control over the weapon and give you more agency over how the weapon behaves. I wanted to put an addendum here. I had everything finished, the video ready to go, and then I found this guy. No idea why, as I had done nothing different, but my swing slowed, and the weapon did, in fact, grind into the flesh mob. So, we're back to the original thought on this point. The Chainsword kinda does what it wants when it comes to slowing down, and we need some method of manually controlling the grinding. So there you have it, divers. Seems that the thing isn't broken. We just need to learn how to use it. Position and timing of your swings is very important, but making sure you're just out of arm's reach of our enemies is just as important. If you have any nuances or techniques that you found yourself using, leave them in the comments below. I still have my next broadcast in the works regarding loadouts and strategies for the Chainsword, so subscribe to receive it as soon as it transmits. Private Spruckus out.